President Muhammadu Buhari makes case for vaccine equality at France-Nigeria summit, says gas remains a top priority for the country. Nigeria to conduct agricultural census after almost 3 decades. FRS generates 4.2 trillion naira between January and September 2021. This is Business Express and we are reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Musa Abubakar. Now let's begin with Paris Peace Forum. President Muhammadu Buhari says if vaccination is the only way to end the COVID-19 pandemic, a more coordinated approach must be adopted by all stakeholders towards plugging the vaccine supply gap in Africa. He said licensing agreements must also be reached for the transfer of intellectual property and technology to support the production of vaccines on the continent. This was while addressing the opening session of the Paris Peace Forum in the French capital.
14.7 doses of vaccine per 100,000 has been administered in Africa. A clear case of lopsidedness. Countries with the highest incomes are getting vaccinated 10 times faster than those with the lowest income. This massive gap between vaccine requirements in Africa and vaccine availability is undermining the fight against coronavirus pandemic in the continent.
And President Muhammadu Buhari, still in Paris, assured investors that investment in gas remains a top priority for the country, considering the huge benefits in terms of returns and utility. The president stated this while receiving the chief executive officer of Total, and the Islamic Development Bank noted that Nigeria had made huge investment in gas and will continue to create enabling opportunities for expansion while looking at improving alternatives for renewable energy.
To their presence in Nigeria, they are going to make additional investment because of the PIA, and Mr. President has also given them his support. For us, that is actually the initial gain we expected, because if your investors, those who are already in the country, are not satisfied, then you will have problems.
Total is one of our most reliable partners in the country. They have been the major supplier of gas to the energy plant, and also from them we have most of the commitments that we see going forward. So we're very happy that they made this commitment to Mr. President, and we also are sure now that the PIA is paying off. The fiscal environment is being appreciated by all and sundry Indians, particularly our major partners.
I was honored to have the opportunity to meet with His Excellency the President, a very well-known figure on the international stage. I told him Nigeria is a very important country and member of the Islamic Development Bank, and I was very happy and proud to see the level of activity that we have in terms of projects that are ongoing, some projects that have already been completed, and projects that are on the drawing board for Nigeria.
Meanwhile, Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, told investors at the summit that Nigeria is ready for business in the latest bid to increase foreign direct investment into the Nigerian economy. Emefiele told global investors that the Nigerian economy has recovered after 2 quarters of decline and attributed the recovery to targeted interventions in critical sectors of the economy, vaccine administration, and number of other policies. The CBN governor said that the economy grew by 0.11% in the fourth quarter of 2020, up from -3.62% in the third quarter. He pointed out that the non-oil and services sectors were the main drivers of growth in the fourth quarter, stating that confidence in the Nigerian business environment is growing due to sustained policy interventions in the economy, and overall business confidence index is projected at 37.7 index points in November 2021 and 57.6 index points by mid-2022. Now, Abraham Tifa is a doctor of economics. He joins me to look at issues from the France-Nigeria Security and Financial Summit. You're welcome to Business Express, Mr. Tifa.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. Nigerians can look after themselves when infrastructure is in place. This statement is credited to President Muhammadu Buhari. What's your take on Nigeria's infrastructure demands?
That statement by the president is a very welcome one because most Nigerians are enterprising. We are people that can employ ourselves and that can be engaged in employment generating businesses. If we have stable supply, access to electricity, good roads, and access to a very nice internet, access to energy. But with infrastructure deficit, that will not be possible. So this visit by this forum that the president has participated in and coming up with that statement is a clear indication that Nigerians can begin to look forward to a period of improved investment in infrastructure sector.
Okay, do you see this summit being a game changer for the economy?
Yes, this summit will certainly be a game changer for the economy. The economy of France as a country has a potential of growing by 2022 by 3.93%. In 2020, that economy was affected by COVID-19 and its real GDP declined by 7.79%. And that also affected the volume of trade between Nigeria and France, which dropped from 4.3 billion in 2019 to 2 billion in 2020. So, and if you recall, when President Macron came into office, he visited Nigeria and was also in Lagos for social interaction. So Nigeria and France has a long-standing relationship. So with this forum, that every opportunity between Nigeria and France that Nigeria can benefit will be harnessed, especially in addressing insecurity in the Sahel, for which France has a very big influence on the countries in the Sahel of West Africa.
Okay. All around us, nations are in crisis and security is posing a great challenge to the economy. Does France have the answer to this double-edged crisis?
Yes, France do have the answer because if you look at how the security challenge affected Nigeria or is affecting Nigeria, you have to understand what is happening in Mali, understand what's happening in Chad, understand what's happening in the French aspect of Cameroon, in Niger. All these countries are bounded within the Francophone context. Even within ECOWAS, the French countries have a very big say through their own organization. Now, you and I know that all West African French-speaking countries still have a connection with France as their parent country. In other words, the connection between these economies is something that France can influence. And the military presence and military operations that France carries out in these countries is very important. So with partnering with France as a country is certainly a key step towards addressing insecurity in Nigeria and strengthening Anglophone-Francophone partnership within the ECOWAS bloc.
But again, on trade, what do we have to offer? Because there are issues of most of our products are mainly agricultural products. So how do we take advantage of this summit actually?
Yes, Nigeria as a country, our population is market. And market for us is something that the rest of the world is looking for. Where we can take advantage of is that we need that partnership that can strengthen our investment in our gas infrastructure to address insecurity challenge. So what we have to offer is our market. And what we have to receive in exchange is support in terms of funding for our infrastructure sector. So we hope that we can be able to use this our population as market advantage to get the needed infrastructure support funding that will minimize our overall long-term borrowing fund infrastructure deficit.
Okay, Governor of the Central Bank is predicting a 5.1% growth in second quarter 2022. Is it achievable, and can it be sustained without more investors?
That projection in terms of growth can be sustained, but it needs support in terms of investment to support it. Already, the Nigerian economy came out of a 0.11% growth in fourth quarter of 2020, and we attained 0.51% in the first quarter of 2021. And by second quarter of 2021, we are doing 5.01%. So if the macroeconomic policy in terms of fiscal and monetary policy that was used is sustained, we are sure that the domestic environment to deliver on that growth is possible. But then we need to cover the investment gap that is needed. Already, the federal government has launched the medium-term National Development Plan 2021 to 2025, which has over $3.4 billion investment, naira investment gap to provide. And by that design, the private sector is expected to supply or provide 85%, while federal government and state do their own part. So with all this initiative towards funding our investment, it is very certain that growth of 5.something% by 2022 will be attained. However, we need to ensure that growth is not just growth in terms of GDP, but growth becomes inclusive, growth that addresses inequality, that addresses poverty, and creates jobs, especially for vulnerable groups like women, children, and the young people in Nigeria.
Okay, with all these takeaways from the summit, what sector do you think Nigeria should prioritize?
If you look at the sectors that survived the COVID-19 for us, it was ICT and agriculture, telecoms, and the financial services. So the sector that we should prioritize should be, first of all, those sectors that have shown to be resilient in terms of growing in the pandemic. We need to sustain the growth of those sectors. Then to use their own growth structure to support sectors that will have potentials like agriculture and manufacturing, so that these sectors that are sure to deliver real growth can have the support they need. So in other words, we are looking forward to having an agricultural sector that is integrated with a telecom system, with our internet infrastructure. We are looking at, in other words, the finance challenge that banks and farmers are having should be covered by the growth in the financial service sector. Then ultimately, the ICT sector as well needs to provide support to other sectors that, such as manufacturing, so that ultimately that agriculture manufacturing link that is expected will be there in order to deliver real growth for farmers and for Nigerians as a people.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Taifa Abraham. Thank you. It's always a pleasure having you on the program.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Now, Nigeria has not conducted an agricultural census for almost 30 years, and now the federal government is set to begin a new census. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed, who launched the takeoff of the census to be carried out by the National Bureau of Statistics, said it is crucial for improving on the delivery of statistical information needed for evidence-based planning, policy formulation and implementation. Moplan Dakok reports.
Agriculture represents about 24% of the nation's economy, providing employment for over 50% of Nigerians. Given the importance of the sector, the National Bureau of Statistics is set to conduct a national agricultural sample census aimed at providing basic data on the structure of the agricultural sector.
This administration will continue to invest heavily in all aspects of the agricultural value chain, taking advantage of all available resources. These aspirations cannot be achieved without the use of adequate and reliable statistics.
A regular agricultural census is a critical component of national statistic systems. especially in a country like Nigeria that is dependent on agriculture and with so much of the labor force is involved in agriculture.
This sensitization workshop seeks to serve as a springboard for national awareness on the forthcoming census and to accord it the desired cooperation.
The National Agricultural Sample Census is designed to produce vital primary data on the structural composition and indeed operations of the sector. On completion of the census, the result will also form a statistical framework for the conduct of subsequent agricultural surveys in Nigeria.
The World Bank and the Food and Agriculture Organization are providing technical support for the census. They say it will increase output on the agri value chain to meet the demand for food, employment, and export earnings. In Abuja, Muplang Dakok.
Now, as the world becomes more digital, the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency, SMEDEN, is keeping up to speed with global digital platforms. To this end, the agency has entered into a strategic partnership to launch a digital platform called iMSME. Director General of SMEDEN is optimistic that the portal will provide quick access to funds and markets to MSMEs. MSMEs who have smartphones will have access to available government, private sector, banks, and other financial institutions hosted on the iMSME platform.
What we did today was trying to provide a digital solution to most of the MSMEs problems. There are a lot of things that are put in place today to ensure that the MSMEs can use the digital platform to enhance their business, to add value to their production, and also use the technology comprehensively for their benefit. Because for you to grow your business, you need a bit of competition.
So one of the ways it adds value, most of all, is importantly, is that it helps to create a structure for an MSME. A lot of MSMEs, one of the biggest challenges they have is that they're not structured. And when you're not structured, you can't scale. People cannot invest in you when you're not structured. And the whole idea of the portal is to enable companies, these small companies, be structured. So when they're structured, third parties can invest in them because they can see what their businesses are doing.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, said it generated the sum of 4.2 trillion naira between January and September 2021, in spite of the challenges posed by COVID-19. Executive Chairman of FIRS, Mr. Mohammed Nami, made the disclosure Thursday in Lagos. Nami, who was represented by Mrs. Fatima Miyaji, Assistant Director of Taxes, Barbage, MSTO, said that measures had also been put in place to ensure tax returns file, payments and other services were easy and seamless. He added that e-services such as e-receipt, e-TCC, e-filing, e-stamp duty, and e-tax payment and the deployment of the Tax Pro Max platform had enabled FIRS to achieve the federal government set revenue target of 7.6 trillion naira for the service in 2021. The Economic Bank for Investment and Development, EBID, has obtained a line of credit worth 40 billion francs CFA from the Bank of Africa Group, BOA Group, for the financing of private sector projects aimed at boosting commerce and industries in the 15 ECOWAS member states. The signing of the loan agreement marks the commencement of a mutually beneficial partnership between EBID and BOA Group with respect to driving the social development agenda and promoting inclusive economic growth in West Africa. During the occasion, the President and Chairman of the Board of Directors of EBID, Dr. George Agekundoko, stated that the line of credit from BOA Group will reinforce the capacity of EB to continue financing private sector projects in the bank's priority intervention areas, notably energy, infrastructure, and industry, as well as under the most ideal conditions. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, says the delicate balance between reducing emissions, energy affordability, and security requires comprehensive and sustainable policies. The OPEC said that focusing on only one of these over others could lead to unintended consequences, market distortions, heightened volatility, and energy shortfalls. Mohamed Barkindo, OPEC Secretary General, made this remark at the 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference, known as COP26. According to him, science indicates that tackling emissions has many parts, hence no one-size-fits-all solution for countries or industries. Barkindo further noted that the narrative that the energy transition was from oil and other fossil fuels to renewables was misleading and potentially dangerous to a world that will continue to be thirsty for all energy sources. Now, on that note, we move to the global commodities market. The bearish hold persists Friday, deepening the decline further of equities at the Nigerian bourse. The NGX all-share index dropped to 43,253.01 points, with equity capitalization also declining to 22.572 trillion naira. 314 million shares value at 4.649 billion naira were traded in 3,400 deals. Veristas Capital, Red Star Express, and Consolidated Hallmark were the most active equities. Our global market update is next with Poside Ibel.
Hello and welcome to the global market. Stock futures in the United States moved slightly higher early Friday morning as Wall Street looked to end the week on a positive note after a historic inflation report. Corporate earnings have also been a key driver of individual share price action throughout the week and continued Friday. Futures contracts tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average ticked up at 0.14%. S&P 500 0.09% and Nasdaq Composite 0.14%. Shares in Asia Pacific advanced on Friday as technology shares mostly rose following overnight gains for their counterparts on Wall Street. Hong Kong Hang Seng Index finished the trading day at 0.32% high at 25,327.97. Mainland Chinese stocks also rose at 0.18% across 3,539.10 for Shanghai Composite, and the Nikkei also topped 1.13% to close 29,609.97. European stocks were muted in early trade Friday, continuing to search for direction as global investors access recent high inflation prints and corporate earnings. While for Africa, the bull wrapped up the last trading day of the week. That's the global market review. I am Bosede Ebo.
Now let's look at how the Naira is exchanging for other currencies. wraps this edition of Business Express, and of course the last for the week. Remember to keep in touch with us, so do send in your comments, observations and suggestions. Also be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NT's channel. Business Express returns Monday at 3 p.m. Be safe out there. I am Musa Abubakar. Enjoy the weekend.